What's up, everybody? You're listening to Hustle Makes It Happen, podcast about the grit, the determination, and the mindset that it takes to become a winner. Success is not an accident. It lives outside your comfort zone, in the trenches, where excuses are met by brick walls. So strap in, tighten up, and let's get ready to hustle. What's up, hustlers? Welcome back to another Sprint by Hustle Makes It Happen, the podcast. These are the episodes where we give you real life tips, tactics, and techniques to take forward into your everyday life. So what we want to give you guys today is something that I think there's a little bit of a misconception about, and that is grit. So a lot of people think that grit is something that people are just intrinsically born with. My argument to that is grit, if you really think about what that word means and how it really kind of how it makes you feel when you say it, right? Grit. Like it's like you're out there grinding through everything and you're just kind of taking it as it comes. What people don't understand is that grit is developed through a series of habits and through a series of capitalizing on wins and then capitalizing on more wins and capitalizing on more wins. That's what keeps that grit train moving. And it's a habit that you can develop just like any other habit.
So I'm going to be the flip side of that coin. I think that grit is also encompassed in loss after loss after loss.
Yeah.
After loss.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think
I'm not going to counter that at all.
Yeah. So I think grit is something that is developed through a series of events, not necessarily wins, not necessarily losses. Maybe it's a culmination of both. Maybe it's not wins or losses. Maybe it's just feelings that you're tired of feeling that way. And it grew this sense of like tenacity inside of you. Because mine, I have grit more now today at 40 than I did when I was in the military. I have more of it in me today to get shit done, to like, that I don't have enough hours in the day to grit through things, because I know that the outcome could be or would be beneficial, and digging my heels in as far as I can dig them to get to it is not something that I don't feel I was born with, because I didn't have that. I didn't have some of those character traits in me years ago.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point of this episode, is to talk about some of the things that you can do every day that are going to help you develop that quality of grit, right? So every endeavor that you undertake that's worth anything at all should be challenging, right? Can we agree on that? Like if you're going to do something, it should be challenging. Otherwise, there's no real point in doing it, right?
I mean, not everything is challenging, but I think most things worth doing tend to pose a problem.
Yeah, tend to be a little challenging sometimes.
They do tend to be a little challenging.
So whenever you want to tackle these things, I like to use the analogy of eating an elephant, right? Some people say steering a ship. I just like the eating the elephant part. You know how you eat an elephant?
It takes a long time.
One bite at a time.
Yeah.
That's the answer. So you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So what does that mean? That means every big endeavor that you want to undertake, you need to define a very clear objective, right? What exactly are you trying to do? In the case of the elephant, I'm trying to eat this whole damn elephant, right? The second step to that is breaking it down into achievable steps. That's the one bite at a time piece. So if you want to start a business, is starting a business a specific, clear objective?
Starting it is, but what are you starting?
Right. So you need to be specific. You need to make sure that your objectives are measurable, and then you need to make sure that they're actually achievable, right?
Yeah.
You ever heard the term SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound?
I have.
So if you set SMART goals, then that gives you a very clear objective. So instead of saying, I want to start a business, you would say, I want to start a land development company by spring of 2022, right? So that's a little bit more clearly defined objective. Then the next piece of that is to break that objective down into achievable steps. So starting a business, if you look at starting a business as the objective, but you don't break it down into smaller steps, it seems very daunting and very challenging, and it seems like something that you can't overcome, right? But what are the steps of starting a business?
Write a business plan.
Write a business plan. Apply for funding if you need it.
Get an LLC.
At least make a funding plan. Yeah. Set up the business on the legal side, set up the business on the tax side, set up the business on the accounting side, right? It's all a series of small bite-sized chunks that you're putting together.
I think it's also showing that it falls into is it measurable? Is it obtainable for me? Right? Because if you're going to start a land development business and you can't get funding and you don't have this and you don't have that and all these things are showing you X's, then at that point starting a land development business may not be in the cards for you at that moment.
Yeah, it might not be attainable. That's why going back and defining that clear objective that's why it's so important.
And maybe it turns into, instead of opening a land development business, maybe you start with, maybe you just buy a dozer and you do some small work, or maybe you buy a flip house and you start in real estate before you got to that point. There's other choices that you can make too.
Right. And I think that's where it all ties back to the grit part, is if you set your clear objective at the beginning and you break it down to achievable steps and you're getting some resistance, you're now developing the tools that it takes to be gritty and be successful, because as your achievable steps are coming in, and maybe some of them are challenges and some of them are successes, by combining all these little small steps, you're developing this habit of grit, right? You're developing this trait of grit and how to work through things, how to figure things out and how to not quit, because you set that clear objective up front.
Yep.
Right. And so,
and with the roadblocks that you're going to get, because this is never going to be a clear path. There's never just that straight, like narrow path, like, hey, start, finish, got it, done. It just doesn't happen that way. And there's always right turns, left turns, roadblocks. Stop signs, do not enter signs,
yield signs, no U-turn signs. Those are my least favorite.
Yep. So, taking those things and preparing yourself for that, it's helping you develop those characteristics that, like, setting yourself up to keep your heels dug in as it's going through.
Yep. And then the last piece, I think, and this is the piece that people see when they describe somebody as being gritty, they start to see the outcomes of all the work that they've put in, right? And then you can say, well, that person's got grit because they went through all this crap to get to where they are. But what people routinely fail to realize is that nobody is doing anything completely alone, right? I think finding a way to hold yourself accountable for the achievable steps that you put in place to accomplish the defined, clear objectives that you've set for yourself is the most important part, right? Staying accountable. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. Probably one of the best, or at least one of my favorites, is having someone there with me to hold me accountable. I do a terrible job of holding myself accountable. I do a much better job being accountable whenever somebody is holding me accountable for what I'm supposed to be doing. Another thing you can do, and I find this is very, very useful for me, is tracking progress regularly. So, we talk a lot about me being a checklist kind of guy. Every day whenever I go to work, I make a new page on my list with a date on the top, and everything that wasn't done on the previous day goes at the top of the next day. That's how I track progress. You know what I mean? If something's checked off and it's completely off my list, it's gone. But every day, like that little checklist is what I live my life off of. So I'm able to track progress of everything that I'm doing throughout the day routinely. And then on the fitness front, using like a macro tracker or a workout tracker or something like that, for me, works really well, because at the end of the day, I can say, check off, track my macros, checked off, hit my protein goal, checked off, did my workout. I'm holding myself accountable for these things every day.
Yeah, mine is keeping the goal in front of me. That to me means a lot when I can see it in my forefront, and I know that my mind is locked in on it. It's staying in my to-do list. Mine's in my brain, but I'm actively looking at it, thinking about it. I'm probably analyzing it a lot of what I need to do to get these things done. So keeping it in my forefront or in front of me is my thing that keeps me constantly working as a character trait that helps me stay gritty.
Yeah.
I call it no quit.
Yeah, no quit grit.
No quit.
I think this last point that I want to make, you're going to agree with 100%. And one of the best ways to stay on track and stay working towards your goal to develop this grit personality, or this gritty mentality that people have or people see, is to celebrate success along the way. And we just did this the other night, and I loved it. And it totally like revitalized my drive and my want to keep moving forward. Celebrating success periodically, I think, is a hugely overlooked portion of grit that people don't see or think about.
Yep. That's right. And look, along the way, you're gonna hit those roadblocks, and you're gonna have those things that come to building your team. Like Justin said, holding you accountable. But when you have those moments of delegating or passing something off or passing the buck for a little bit, because you got things like that, that's very important too. I think that helps you know that you grinding, or because you're gonna have those downtime moments. We all have them where you're kicked right in the dick and you don't know what to do. So I think having that team around you, even if it's just that emotional support, or as a team. So grit is not something that you're born with intrinsically, right? I think some people are a little more prone to it maybe than others, but you can develop grit by developing a series of habits that allow you to test yourself and come out on the other side. And that is how you develop grit. So I hope you guys learned something from this episode. Again, send us your thoughts, send us your topics. If you want something specific that you want us to talk about, shoot it to us in IM, comment on the video on YouTube, whatever. We want to know how you guys like these sprints and how you're taking it, so we can improve every day. That's just how it works. It's a continuous cycle of feedback. So hope you're getting some value out of it. Keep your head down, keep your eye on the ball. Until next time, hustle makes it happen. But most importantly, have fun.
Later.